A man once stood on the edge of a cliff, the wind howling in his ears like the echoes of 1,000 voices, each voice a lesson, each gust a whisper of things he wished he'd known earlier. He had chased love, validation, and approval like a beggar hunts for coins in the dirt, never realizing he was trading away the very currency that made him whole, his self-respect. In the modern world, men are bombarded with ideas about what it means to be good with women. Be nice, be agreeable, be available. But these ideas, more often than not, come from places of fear, not strength. They come from the desire to be chosen, rather than the power of choosing. Stoicism teaches us that virtue is the only good, not pleasure, not wealth, not status, and certainly not approval. So why do so many men crumble in the presence of a woman's gaze? Why do they trade their principles for fleeting moments of affection? And more importantly, what silent rules are they breaking every time they do? This video is not about tactics. It's not about manipulation or seduction. It's a guide for the man who wants to reclaim his inner citadel, a man who desires to walk through life with the calm assurance of Marcus Aurelius, the piercing awareness of Epictetus, and the unshakable resolve of Seneca. It's about understanding the 9 things a man should never do with women, not because society says so, but because each of these actions erodes the core of who he is. Imagine sitting at a table where respect is the meal, dignity the drink, and self-control the dessert. This is the banquet a Stoic man sets for himself. But every time he begs for attention, every time he lies to appease, every time he sacrifices his purpose to please a partner, he knocks over the table, spills the wine of virtue, and leaves the feast hungry once more. This is not a declaration of war on women, far from it. It is a call for men to rise to their rightful height, not to dominate, but to stand firm, not to chase, but to lead, not to demand, but to become worthy of respect through the cultivation of character. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. The way you behave with women reflects the way you govern your mind. If you cannot hold your frame in her presence, you have already lost control of your kingdom. And what is a king without a kingdom? What is a man without command over himself? The Stoic does not sway with the opinions of others. He does not mold himself to fit into someone else's expectations. He is grounded, like a mountain that does not tremble, even when the sky cracks open above him. He listens, he observes, but he does not betray his principles for validation. And this is where the journey begins. Over the next few sections, we will dissect the 9 actions that quietly erode a man's power, and we'll see them through the lens of Stoicism. You will learn what happens when a man loses himself for the sake of love, when he trades self-respect for intimacy, and when he hands over the keys to his peace of mind in exchange for fleeting comfort. But more importantly, you'll learn how to reclaim that power, not through ego, but through essence, not through game, but through grounded wisdom, because women are not your enemy, nor are they your saviors. They are mirrors, revealing whether the man who stands before them is ruled by impulse or anchored in discipline. So sit back, listen closely. Let these lessons not just be heard, but absorbed. Because the world doesn't need more agreeable men. It needs men of presence, men of principle, men who understand what to give, what to protect, and most crucially, what never to do. Let us begin with the first mistake, a silent killer of respect, both self-respect and that of others, over validation. The man who constantly praises a woman, showers her with flattery, and offers endless compliments without measure does not express love. He expresses lack, a lack of boundaries, a lack of purpose, a lack of self-worth. A Stoic man understands that words are currency. To spend them carelessly is to bankrupt your influence. When you validate excessively, you place her on a pedestal, not because she earned it, but because you feel beneath her. This is not love, it is idolatry, and every time you idolize, you diminish your own power. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom here begins in the mind. If you feel compelled to flatter a woman simply to keep her attention, you are not free. You are chained by your desire to be liked. A Stoic does not flatter. He speaks the truth, kindly but firmly. His approval must mean something, and so he gives it sparingly, and only when it is deserved. Second, the sin of chasing. The modern man is taught to pursue, relentlessly, aggressively, to follow her like a moth chasing the flame, even when the heat burns his wings. But pursuit without dignity is desperation in disguise. Stoicism teaches us to remain indifferent to that which lies outside our control, and her affection, her interest, is not within our control. If she walks away, the Stoic man does not follow. He observes, he understands, he reflects, but he does not abandon his post. His post is his mission, his craft, his self-mastery. A man without a mission becomes a man who orbits others, but a man with a mission becomes the sun around which others revolve. The third mistake, lying to appease. This is perhaps the most subtle betrayal, the most corrosive. You think you're preserving peace when you avoid telling her how you truly feel. You nod in agreement when you mean to object. You smile when you mean to stand up. You change your truth to fit into her comfort. But the Stoic man does not bend his reality to win approval. He speaks truth as a blade, not to harm, but to cut through illusion. Epictetus warned us never to trade our integrity for what we cannot guarantee: approval, affection, attention. Once you lie to be loved, you teach yourself that your truth is not enough, and no relationship can sustain itself on falsehoods. The fourth thing a man should never do: seek permission to be himself. You are not meant to be a version of yourself that others tolerate. You are meant to be the fullest expression of your essence. And yet, many men ask, is it okay if I say this? Is it all right if I do that? They treat their own life like a rental car, checking with others before they take the wheel. A Stoic does not seek permission. He lives in accordance with nature, his nature. That doesn't mean recklessness. It means authenticity. The man who waits for a green light from others never starts his journey. The Stoic creates his own path, guided by virtue, not validation. Fifth, emotional dependence. This is perhaps the most common chain that men wrap around themselves. They allow their emotional weather to be dictated by her words, her moods, her presence. When she's happy, he's relieved. When she's distant, he's broken. But this is not love. It is enslavement. The Stoic understands that emotions are guests, not masters. You may feel joy, sadness, longing, desire, but you are not to be ruled by them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Let that include how you respond to her distance, her silence, her approval. Do not tether your soul to another's tide. Stand like a lighthouse, lit from within, unmoved by storms." And that brings us to the sixth error: abandoning your purpose for her. Too many men trade their goals, their passions, their sacred routines, just to spend more time, to make her feel secure. to show devotion, but devotion without direction is decay. A woman may admire a man's attention, but she will only respect a man's mission. Your purpose is not a side quest, it's your main storyline. If she fits into it, good. If not, you still continue. This is not selfishness, it is alignment. The Stoic man lives in harmony with his highest calling, and any love that threatens that harmony must be held at arm's length. We've now touched on 6 of the 9, but the foundation is clear. At the core of each mistake is a common theme: the abandonment of self. The moment you give away your principles to gain affection, you are no longer acting out of love. You are acting out of fear. And fear is the antithesis of Stoic power. In the next section, we will explore the remaining 3 things a man should never do with women. These are more subtle, more dangerous, because they disguise themselves as strength, but they too erode the soul if left unchecked. And remember this as we move forward: the Stoic man does not seek to be loved at the cost of himself. He seeks to be whole, complete, grounded, and from that wholeness, he offers love, not as a transaction, but as an overflow. We've spoken of flattery, chasing, lying, dependency. But now we enter a more deceptive terrain, actions that feel like strength but are, in truth, subtle forms of surrender. And the 7th thing a man must never do with a woman is this: use anger to regain control. It is tempting, isn't it? When ignored, criticized, disrespected, to lash out, to raise your voice, to intimidate, to guilt-trip her back into submission. But what many mistake for power is merely reactivity dressed as dominance. And reactivity is the mark of a man ruled by impulse, not reason. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, ruled over the greatest empire in the world, and yet he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. If she disrespects you, remove yourself. If she insults your character, stand firm, but do not descend into chaos." Anger that arises from wounded pride is weakness cloaked in noise. The Stoic man does not roar to be feared. He stays calm to be respected. This doesn't mean you accept mistreatment. No, but it means you confront it without losing yourself. You do not become the storm to win the argument. You become the mountain, still, unmoved, undeniable. And from that silence, your truth strikes with more weight than any scream ever could. Next, number 8, sacrificing your boundaries for intimacy. This is one of the most common and corrosive patterns modern men fall into. She asks something you're not comfortable with. You say yes. She sets a tone you don't agree with. You tolerate it. You allow things to slide, not because you're at peace, but because you're afraid to lose her. But the Stoic knows that what he tolerates, he teaches. Every time you allow your line to be crossed without consequence, you send a message. I am negotiable. My principles are for sale. And once that line is blurred, even you will forget where it used to be. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors, and only those who respect the frame are allowed to walk through. A man's dignity is not maintained through force, but through quiet enforcement of what is sacred to him. He doesn't beg for respect. He simply removes himself from where it is absent. Seneca said, "Associate with those who make you better." That includes romantic partners. That includes what you allow in your sacred space. Never mistake compromise for surrender. Never water down your values to keep the peace. There is no peace without principle. And finally, the 9th mistake, perhaps the most tragic of them all, making her the center of your universe. This one is hidden beneath poetic songs, romantic films, and societal myths. She is my everything, men say, and in doing so, they give her the crown to a kingdom she never asked to rule. It sounds noble, it feels romantic, but it is spiritual erosion, because once she becomes your everything, you become nothing without her. The Stoic man knows better. He may love deeply, but never obsessively. He may give fully, but never lose himself. His center is not her. His center is his virtue, his code, his stillness, his soul. And from that unshakable center, he offers love, not as a man who needs, but as one who chooses. You must understand, a woman may enjoy attention, appreciate effort, and be moved by grand gestures. But what she will respect, what will keep her drawn, is your sense of self, your core, your essence. The Stoic does not orbit others. He builds a gravitational field around his purpose. He moves through life with intention, and that gravitational pull either draws the right partner into his world or clears the space for someone who truly aligns with it. Do not seek to be her sun, nor orbit her like a moon. Instead, become your own center of gravity. Stand so rooted in who you are that others must rise to meet you, or fall away trying. Now these 9 things may seem harsh. You might ask, can a man be soft, compassionate, vulnerable? Of course he can, but not at the cost of his soul. The Stoic man does not harden his heart. He strengthens it. He does not avoid love. He enters it with eyes wide open, principles firmly intact, and his foundation unshaken. In the next section, we'll explore how these lessons look in real life. How men who once abandoned their center found their way back. You'll hear stories, transformations, and revelations from those who walked this path and reclaimed their strength. Not through control, but through clarity. Because Stoicism is not just theory, it is lived. And when applied, it doesn't just change how you relate to women. It changes how you carry yourself through every relationship, every trial, every moment. Let me tell you the story of a man I once knew. Not a philosopher, not a monk, not a king, just a man. 38 years old, divorced, 2 kids, working a quiet job in the corner of a quiet town. For years, he had no idea what had gone wrong in his marriage. He had given everything, his time, his energy, his passion, even his dreams. He made her his sun and circled her like a planet begging for light. And yet, she left. Not because he didn't love her, but because somewhere along the way, he had forgotten how to love himself. When I asked him what he regretted most, he said this: "I abandoned who I was to keep who I loved." Those words stuck with me like an arrow buried deep in the wood of an old door, because they echo the same pain many men carry in silence, the regret not of loss, but of self-erasure. He had broken every one of the 9 Stoic principles we've discussed. Over-validation. He praised her for things he never believed in. Chasing. He ran when she pulled away, lying to appease. He laughed at jokes he found cruel, agreed to plans that drained his soul. Emotional dependency? He crumbled when she was cold, abandoning his purpose. He gave up painting, his truest gift, because she said it wasn't practical. But here's the twist. After the dust settled, after he faced his reflection in the silence of an empty home, he began to rebuild. Not to win her back, but to find the man he once was. And this time, he started with the Stoics. He read Meditations not as a book, but as a mirror. He journaled like Epictetus had whispered into his ear. He began waking early, walking before dawn, choosing discipline over distraction. He didn't swear off women, he swore off betraying himself, and then something strange happened. People noticed. His ex-wife, years later, said he had a calm power about him now. Not louder, not tougher, just still. His sons looked to him differently. His co-workers listened when he spoke. Women approached him, not because he tried, but because he didn't. He had become a man who no longer needed to prove his worth. He simply lived it. Another man I knew, a much younger one, had the opposite journey. At 23, he was caught in the whirlwind of modern dating. Apps, texting games, emotional roller coasters. Every morning he woke up anxious, wondering if she had replied. Every night, he debated what message to send, how to appear interesting but not needy. He was always one text away from collapse. When he came across Stoic thought, it was like breathing air for the first time. The idea that his peace didn't have to depend on someone else's attention. It hit him like thunder. He deleted every dating app for 6 months, not out of anger, but out of clarity. He wanted to be alone with himself, to discover who he was without constant distraction. During that time, he reconnected with an old passion, boxing, not to fight others, but to confront himself. In the ring, he learned that control isn't about power, it's about presence. He learned to breathe, to observe, to respond without panic. And soon that stillness seeped into his daily life. Conversations became cleaner, boundaries sharper, confidence real. Months later, when he began dating again, everything had shifted. He no longer chased, he chose. He no longer begged to be liked. He allowed himself to be seen. And that difference, though invisible, changed everything. These are not grand tales of overnight transformation. They're quiet revolutions, moments when men chose virtue over validation, character over comfort. And it's not just about relationships. A Stoic strength with women reflects a greater mastery of life. The man who doesn't break at rejection also doesn't break at failure. The man who doesn't chase attention also doesn't chase applause. He becomes ungovernable, not by rebellion, but by resolve. This is what Stoicism offers. Not a rigid set of rules, but a compass, a center, a return to what makes a man whole. Even now, I know men who are just beginning this path. They're still learning how to say no without guilt, how to express truth without fear, how to sit in solitude without needing to be entertained. And every step they take, they move closer to that ancient wisdom, that a man's greatest relationship is the one he has with himself. From there, all other connections either deepen or fall away. In the final section, we'll tie all of this together. The philosophy, the experiences, the lessons. And we'll answer the most important question of all. How do you carry this into the rest of your life? Because awareness is the beginning, but action is the transformation. So now you know. 9 actions, 9 choices, 9 moments where a man either honors his inner world or trades it away for fleeting affection. But the truth is, this was never about women. Not really. It was always about you. The man you become when no one's watching. The man you return to when the applause fades. The man you must answer to in silence. Stoicism is not a rule book for relationships. It's a blueprint for being, a guide for the soul. In the eyes of the Stoics, the greatest love you can offer is not blind devotion. It is unshakable presence, a calm strength that doesn't fold under pressure, a clarity that doesn't need chaos to feel alive, a sense of purpose so rooted in virtue that no amount of seduction, rejection, or admiration can alter your course. You see, when you stop chasing validation, you start attracting respect. When you stop performing for affection, you begin embodying authenticity. And when you stop allowing emotion to dictate action, you enter the rarest territory of all, self-mastery. Let us remember the warnings we've explored. Don't flatter to be liked. It dilutes your truth. Don't chase to feel worthy. It distorts your value. Don't lie to maintain peace. It poisons your soul. Don't shape-shift to avoid rejection. It fractures your integrity. Don't depend on her for your joy. It makes her your jailer. Don't abandon your path for comfort. It leaves your spirit homeless. Don't lash out to feel strong. It proves you're weak. Don't erase your boundaries for approval. It invites disrespect. And above all, don't make her your everything, because you were never meant to orbit another's light. You were meant to become one. The Stoic man is rare, not because the path is hidden, but because the cost is high. You will lose people who only loved your weakness. You will disappoint those who benefited from your silence. You will confuse those who mistook kindness for compliance. But in their place, you will attract a different kind of presence. Those who see you, not as a tool, but as a force. Not as a follower, but as a sovereign. And what of love? What becomes of love when it is not rooted in fear? It becomes clean. It becomes sacred. It becomes something offered, not out of need, but from abundance. The Stoic man does not fear love. He fears only becoming unworthy of it by abandoning himself. And that makes all the difference. In the ancient world, men were measured not by their charm or wealth, but by their ability to remain composed in fire, to speak truth in the face of seduction, to remain loyal to the divine within, even when every external reward tempts betrayal. So what now? Now you begin. You begin to observe your patterns, not with shame, but with awareness. You begin to rebuild your principles, not with rigidity, but with reverence. You begin to listen to your inner voice, not the loud, desperate one, but the quiet one that knows. You take inventory. You ask, what have I tolerated that dishonors my truth? You ask, where have I betrayed myself in the name of being liked? And then you ask, what kind of man would I become if I refused to do it again? That's the real transformation, not in being better with women, but in becoming the kind of man who is so aligned, so grounded, so inwardly full, that any connection he enters becomes sacred by his presence alone. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to consecrate. Every word you speak, every boundary you set, every love you offer, make it an offering to the divine within you. And remember, when you live by virtue, you do not lose. You become unforgettable. That is the Stoic way.